Moving on from that place, I spoke of some friends of mine. We'd sit together at a dinner table at the British Bankers Club, and we're all trained to be very quiet, not introverted, not extroverted, just quiet, where you don't react to other people's thoughts, feelings, memories, dreams, or reflections. And you're there. A group of lamas, my friend Vental Rinpoche would take us. And I've had experience like this with military people. My friend Peter was CIA, and he's just trained to just be present, like we're talking about. And he was there that evening, I believe. And his wife was highly trained, and this is different than just, the monks are trained mentally and emotionally, but this is something where in communication with other people, you're trained to not react to people's thoughts, intentions, facial grimaces, anything. You're just there, present, and you can listen to people. I've done this for 50 years with people. I've done it all my probably 60 years when I taught meditation and so forth, but this just extrapolated out from spiritual and emotional to psychological. With the mental, you quiet your mind. Like a Zen Buddhist, would you put your exterior eyes, your mental concentration. Cerebral cortex is quiet. You're already quiet. All my experience with spiritual people in the world, the reason I'm saying this and where we're going to go is this is how we change the entire world overnight. I have zero doubt that this is the last generation. 1.5 generations, that's it, it's over, no more. It's easy. If you spent time around monks, around a spiritual community I used to go to and help them out with, they did construction, and when they had to, they're normally doing spiritual things. And when things needed to be done physically, they'd get together, a couple of little slight women and men, and I thought, I'm going to take the brunt of this for carrying big giant cases. And I get down, but when they're all very quiet together and their belief is in eternity and God, and they're living in that place, the Pure Land, the quiet place, then everyone lifts together, there's no strain, there's no grunting, it's just boom. And I would always be shocked because we're living in that place beyond the world. You know, we've all heard the story of a mom whose child was trapped or something under a car, and she would literally lift it and the child would get out, and we've all heard those stories, and they're true. I've certainly seen those things in the most egregious circumstances in the world, in combat and so forth, where people do things that are so not normal. They transcend their physical, emotional, and even spiritual self. They're like one presence with God. And in those moments, if you talk to people who have these extreme experiences, we all have. I mean, you can get PTSD in the kitchen as well as in combat, right? It's just a condition of being enough is enough. But if you're spiritual, you're not going to get PTSD, you're not going to get anything. You're going to see through everything. And when you work with a group of people like monks and nuns, or again, even military, my friends, is one of those special guys who lives, trains, he's like the very top of the food chain with those kind of guys we hear about in movies and TV. And he's the most quiet, calm, beautiful person in the world because he's so well trained to not react, to do what he has to do under any circumstance, that the normal buttons we have about doing anything are simply beat out of you. Today we're going to talk about a process of uninvolving your sensory equipment with the world, not from doing so much repetitively that you don't care because you know you can do it, but simply quieting yourself inside, as the monks, as the nuns, as the holy ones, as every mother, as every dad does. He's off like my buddy Greg here, works so hard 24 hours a day, never sees the family because that's his duty, is to provide for the family. So he's very clear on it. So he's not going to miss a day's work or 10 minutes. And his wife is just the ultimate mom, just quiet, present there, doing things around the clock. So if we have that kind of sensory equipment that's highly trained to do the right thing all the time, and then we bring it into the atmosphere of spiritual awareness, and then 30, 60 million of us doing that, the world will change. It will be over. You can't fight this. There actually is a God. And to make the very strong point, that the world is, in all spiritual traditions, either a way station through eternity or an imaginary land projected or propagated by this force called Satan, evil. And that's the truth of it. When you experience God in God's fullness, there are all these books and writings about illumination, enlightenment, spiritual consciousness, and they're all true. But beyond that, there's a point that the world, once you experience that, it's so enormous. It's actually the word infinite, as I feel every this moment of my life, is infinite purity. It's so delicate, so precious. And I'm around people, I'm not going to like say I feel this, it's just very quiet, I'm trained inside. So if I meet people that have that consciousness, my buddy Matt has big construction companies, but he's the ultimate Christian. I'm not that type of religious person, so every now and then I'll say something off color and he gets upset, but I've just been in the room here with my buddies, jiu-jitsu guys, all training together, and it's a rough thing, like a combat thing, but happy, joy, it's spiritual discipline. You're learning from each other. So, and then if you bring that out into a spiritual atmosphere, like Tibetan monks have lived with, it's you don't have this thing where you're trying to check each other out and make sure they're right for the team or the mission, but you're all very trained in your sensory equipment to not react and to literally be in the Pure Land and that quietude of eternity. It's like the staging ground for the greater place where God actually dwells. There is a God. And you're God's presence in the world. So we experience this infinite delicacy, breathtaking beauty. And that's God, and so it's easy to understand. This is the one point to make it clear mentally for us, that this world is, how could the world not be, how can it be an illusion? It's not that it's an illusion, it's so nothing when you're spiritually trained. You're not trying to run a gamble or have an illicit affair or whatever. You're happy. That's why I brought up in the beginning, my buddies who are very highly trained. We go out in public and they're all strong personalities, but trained to not be here. Understood? So if your mental acuity, if you train yourself to not react to anything, simply be present, aware, you can acknowledge things in other people, and again, the point that we're calling the world an illusion, it's not that it's a hell, but it's nebulous, it's nothing to the spiritually endowed, to you, who enjoy the quiet places and the distant mountains. It's that one presence of that, being out in nature, that openness. That's a stepping stone to your spiritual awareness. It's like nature comes uninvited and yet never intrudes and takes us away. Or love does. Kindness. But with a little training, especially mentally, to not react to anything. You can be interested in anything and not react to it, and to a hairline. And that's what I'm talking about. So, yes, it's an illusion, but you say it's real, but when you're aware of God, this delicate, ephemeral presence. And then through that, because this helps me get through this, is I'm aware of endless universes of good, of golden light, we'll call it. There are many kind of words, you know what I'm saying? You get poetic about it, but it changes and transfers in your thought every moment. I know I can change things in the world, in life, in circumstances. I've been in circumstances that are beyond horrible, and somehow have been psychically, spiritually, to use the words, able to do my duty, no matter what's around me, because it's the right thing. And like I said in the beginning, there have been groups of spiritual people been together and done and accomplished tasks and chores that would take 10 strong men, and yet we were 6 delicate intellectual kind of people working in a spiritual community. I was helpful and volunteering, and things got done with you wouldn't feel a hairline of complaint or this is tiring, I don't want to do this, because they're all doing it for God. You see? People in a real spiritual community, you'd think that, oh, they must be weak. And no, I mean, if you want to find, there was a C.K. Chesterton, one of the great writers of eternity from England 100 years ago. He wrote the Father Brown series, and it was about a detective that was a priest. And you think, well, how the hell could a priest know anything about all the crazy stuff on the streets? Well, the first step in being clergy anywhere in the world is that you're combating evil. You're not hiding from the world. You're trying to live in this pure land, and in the deeper Eastern cultures where they train you to do that, you're not hiding from it at all. And you're not giving anything up. You know that there's no need to be tempted. There really aren't even words for that in that community. You're simply in the Pure Land now. And I want you to be in the Pure Land now. Find some technique that helps you quiet this thing down, not react, practice. And you understand how simple it's going to be to lift the veil. So that the real you might step forward into the fray and will lift and help and heal and overcome all that seems to be in favor of that truly is a divine, eternal, infinite consciousness that we call Almighty God, the Father, our friend. We find Him in love, in kindness, and adoration. Whenever you see anything that's wonderful, that's gorgeous, that's beautiful, we know that's His face. After all, God's beauty is the face of God. And you're God's heart and soul in the world. You understand? We're like fingers of God through this atmosphere. It's a temporal. In other words, in time, the world is a hell. And it's so nebulous. Again, this is the whole point. If you understand that, then you can use your gifts and powers and reside for the rest of eternity in the Pure Land, the quiet place. Your eternal soul. That's what you are, what we are. We're manifestations of eternity in time, but we're not in time when we're quiet, when we trained our senses to simply be here. But I have my friends I mentioned in the beginning, we would just be here. We leave the restaurant, we go to Sarge's building, and we simply discuss what everyone in the room felt, and if you looked at it, it seemed like 5 or 6 gentlemen, maybe Roz was there, I'm not sure, and we could discuss what everyone in that room felt, thought, who they were, the emotional plane they lived on, because we weren't anybody. We were simply in the quiet land, very highly trained, and the people there wouldn't notice we noticed everything, because we simply looked like, oh, some bored, quiet old men there. You see what I'm saying? It's like when you see the monk off in the hill, you go, oh, how's he being there alone all the time? He's not alone. You'll never be alone. You are the eternal presence, the glory of God, here on a mission. Somewhere in an infinite universe, this thing just appeared called the world. It is a hell. It's a construct. And if you look right through it, you'll be so happy. And there's an egregious part of you where you see that all the pain and the trauma in the world, and you determine to fix it. And you will. And you do by being here in the quiet. It will come to you how to change this thing, that thing, the other thing around you. You will have great gifts and powers. Employ them as you will. You are literally God's presence literally. And when you look behind the construct of the world it seems to be, and all the crazy things, all the conditioning of it, you'll see a face of that. When you're very highly trained, you'll actually come to this point. I'll go there now for you, where I actually look at what creates all this foolishness about us. Every impression, every thought, every feeling anyone ever had. It's projected by this being called Satan. And I'll look Satan in the eye now for you. And when you actually get to this place, it's crazy. And he'll go a million different directions at one time. And then that moment you got to get so quiet. And then it's like a lifetime of meditation. You get there in 5 minutes, and that's what I'm trying to explain. Just understand the reality of it, that you're a divine presence, this one stupid being in all eternity. You don't have to react to it and say it's and know that it's all an illusion, because you're already in the quiet land. The atmosphere for me has this beauty of calm and warmth and decency. And it's beyond all body consciousness, pains. People go, I'm spiritual, want me to pray for this or that, the other, not taking anything from that. I'm always there, but beyond it for us who live in the Pure Land, like my buddy Bento Rinpoche or my Sarge, or these guys are very highly trained, it would be like, it's not a big deal to alter the reality around us. We live in a special place. The human heart is the embodiment of God. And we learn not to want or need or have and hold, but just to be. We'll understand. The purpose is to one day look Satan in the eye. And the training is to not react to anything, emotionally and psychologically. And in that day it'll all be over. And the moment you see this and have this vision, then you'll know that along with me and so many friends of ours, whether in the mountaintops or the prairies or homes in the kitchens, could be a child, a mom, could be anyone, anywhere. A cop on his beat. My buddy Aaron's a local cop and he has this. But life is very tough, right? But if you have this, and you hold it close, like it says in the scripture, though, there were 10,000 at your right and 10,000 at your left. Enemies, they'll fail. You're simply God's presence in a very temporal place in an infinitesimally short time period. And time and place do not exist to you, the quiet one from the far off mount. You will overcome this world in this life shortly. Train your senses and trust in God. You have to have this sense of God, because at a certain point you'll need the blood of the Christ or whatever. You know what I mean? You need, because when you're battling it and you have these crazy forces coming at you, it just helps, because they're fear-based and they'll run. But if you give it nothing and can look that's in the eye, you'll be very happy. Something more than joy. And you'll see everything in eternity now. That's your birthright, that's your destiny. You are a holy personage. You're a high roller in a low-rent neighborhood. You will fulfill a most needed destiny. God bless your future, which is eternity. Amen. Thank you for listening. Thank you.